the meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission for Tuesday, June 27, 2017 to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halston.
Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Ellers.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Doran.
Here.
6 out of 7.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the first item is the minutes of 6/13/17.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion for the minutes is passed. And the second item is the specific implementation plan modification for design revision of a storage building, Laser Express 3620 Venture Avenue. Who is going to mark?
I can address that. I don't know if anybody's here for that. I don't see anybody here. Oh, you are here? Okay, for that item. Okay. So if you have any questions, there's somebody here from Veerbecker.
I leave.
The summary is that you previously reviewed and approved the building design and placement in the location that you see in your plans, but now they are requesting an additional depth, building depth of 6 feet from 32 to 38 feet. The height of the building would remain the same. The building would extend farther back into the, to the north. The front of the building would be in the same location.
Can you hear him in the back, or Mark, could you speak a little bit in the mic? Can you hear him? Okay.
So the oh, there we go. It's a little better. So the building would increase in size by 330 square feet. Would be located in the same. It would still have the same placement in the front, but be 6 feet extended towards the back. Same height.
Okay. Do you want to add anything?
No, sir.
I did go there and I looked at it. This is, I saw the building which is complete, looks very good. And this is, you have the slabs laid out there at 3 different places. This is that building, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're going to do the landscaping at the back so that the people, those who are living at your back, they would be not seeing that structure, I assume, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions
I have
for?
a question.
Yes.
Is there a reason that you want to make it bigger? Is there a need for this, or is it?
You got to use the mic.
Adam Carrico with Veerbecker. We are the engineer for the site, and unfortunately I can't speak for why the increase in size. I'm really not sure. I think it was just added storage capacity for the business.
Well, he can't answer that clearly, so any other questions for him?
Just on the site plan, what's shown is lot 2 and lot 3. Those are future buildings, but the building footprint has been approved in the SIP.
Correct.
For those.
So I'll make a motion to recommend approval as a minor SIP.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, further discussion now?
How do we see a landscape plan? Who sees a landscape plan? Just a point of information for me, please.
Typically you would.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, and I don't remember if the motion I think the motion last time said approval at the staff level, but if you wish to see that here, we could bring it back here.
Those are single-family houses on the north?
Yes.
Yep.
In the town, right.
I almost bought one of them, that's why.
Oh, okay.
You see from that particular place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was there, so it's very bare.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
See the laser express.
I mean, so long as you guys really go over it, I'm happy with it, but I mean, it really does need some very careful attention to the landscape.
Yes. Very.
And that might mean something that is a little bit bigger than one would normally start off with.
Yes, Dennis?
I think, well, just for the record and for maybe landscaping purposes, it would be nice if the hill were shown.
Okay.
It is not.
Flat, yeah.
Yes, it's quite deceiving, and the building is actually right up to
The retaining wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually see the
the
rocks.
retaining wall. That's what was there. It's the stone that was there.
Yeah,
So it slopes up to the house?
Yeah.
No, well, it does. The grassy part of it does, yeah. There's the retaining wall, that part of it that's just stone, and then from there to the trees.
yeah, the part which is built, that skirt is steep, straight up.
Yeah.
And so I think something would have to be done there, so.
Will they be able to see it from the patios?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this, we want the screening. Wow.
This is one of those things, again, where it seems things happen somewhat piecemeal, because this building was not there when we approved the plans initially,
That's true.
and now we have a concrete block, box there. And you know, after all the discussion we had about how it impacted neighbors and what they could see, and certainly the building, as Kurt says, looks very handsome.
Yeah,
I don't think the concrete block will look quite as handsome.
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't screen, so.
Which concrete block?
The one that they want to build.
The addition?
Building.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all it is, with 3 loading doors and 1 man door.
It won't even match, it won't match the buildings at all.
No. Well, there's no indication.
Do we have any authority to require that the aesthetics of the building match the existing?
Mark, it was approved at the plan commission before.
Previously, in this,
Footprint was-
right, the footprint and materials were previously approved.
Yes.
But now they're asking for an expansion,
Right.
so that would, I think, say, well.
It's just adding.
bigger, let's make it more.
The expansion would, by definition, have to match if the exterior was approved previously.
Well, you'd want it to match what was previously approved. I
Which
would
is just a
think.
block building.
Right.
So, I mean.
I think
we
previously-
change it.
I suppose you could, but then they might just stick with what was previously approved.
But we still have landscaping as a.
Do you want to answer any of these, or you are happy?
Yes, sir, all I can say is they're just requesting to have an increase in building size
Okay.
based on the previously approved.
Okay, so you guys think that we
My house
should,
is just painted concrete, so.
yeah. So you would want to look at the landscape plan, or you want to let the staff make sure that it is done properly?
I don't know enough about how lands help me.
It can certainly come back here because it is important with the
All right.
single-family home.
And yes,
I don't see why it
I would
can't.
like it to come back.
I'm fine with that. I would be uncomfortable with changing the building after we approved it. Although I would think we would have the authority to do that because they're making.
Because they're making a change, we could make a change too.
But I would feel uncomfortable. We didn't raise that last time.
Right, that's my point.
So, but we could ask for the landscape plan. too.
Landscaping, that's fine to have that come back, yeah.
Okay, so Lee, if you want to make,
Sure, friendly
amendment?
amendment, sure, I'll accept it.
okay, and,
Okay.
okay. Okay, so the discussion on the motion as it's amended, further discussion. Okay, if there's no discussion, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed with the stipulation that they are going to bring back the landscaping plan for the plan commission to look at. Okay, so the next item is sign design review for the distinctive wood creations on 7-1 7919 Airport Road.
And
Mark.
Mayor Brar, I would point out that it has passed 7:05, and we have a public hearing scheduled, so I don't know if you want to do that next, or if you want
Oh, okay.
other item.
Okay, well, actually, we could do that, yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's here for that, maybe that affects.
Okay, so let's go back to the public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing for amendment to lighting ordinance 33.078 relating to flags and similar objects. Does anybody want to speak either in favor or against this lighting ordinance? Anybody wants to speak either in favor or in opposition to amendment to the lighting ordinance? And Mark, do you want to explain what it is?
Sure. We adopted the outdoor lighting ordinance a few years ago to try and bring aspects of our lighting into compliance with dark sky concepts. It's not a completely dark sky friendly ordinance, but it's a good ordinance based on model language from written by the UW, and I looked at some other community ordinances as well. That adoption of the ordinance, we have seen some examples, heard some concerns from people who display U.S. flags and similar objects, for example, at the fire station and also with the VFW memorial at Lakeview Park. The feedback we have received is that it is difficult to have downward-oriented lighting from atop the flagpole. Of course, flags will change with the wind, and then therefore the light has to change as well. And so we have heard from especially the fire company, but also currently with the VFW, as I mentioned, that they would prefer to have uplighting instead. So our attorney's office has worked with the License and Ordinance Committee to draft the language that's the subject of the hearing tonight. And that is it's in the hearing notice itself. It's like 3 or 4 paragraphs.
Yeah.
And that's the subject of the hearing here tonight.
Okay, so anybody else wants to speak? People still have to get the permission for it. It's not that everybody's going to be doing it. It's a few exceptional situations. Okay, so if there's no one who wants to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing for the amendment to lighting ordinance. And we're going to move on to the...
We need to make a motion.
We're not there yet.
Do we?
We're
We do
We're
it?
not on that.
It's on the
Oh,
agenda.
not.
Well, if you want to make a motion, that's
Oh, no, we'll wait.
okay. So now we on to item number 3, sign design review for distinctive wood creations on 7919 Airport Road. Mark?
Yeah, and is anybody here? That's what I thought. So we do have the applicant here. You can direct questions to him. But in summary, what this is, I tried to take as many sign approvals, I try to approve as many administratively as I can, as the ordinance allows. In this case, we have an existing ground sign, the design of which is being modified by adding a wing to the sign. Actually, 2 wings is what's proposed. And this is actually a fairly unusual, I can't remember ever seeing a sign like this actually, certainly not since we revised our sign code 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So technically our code requires a sign to be counted only once, one side. When you have a sign front and back, we count that area only once, but that only applies when it's parallel. When there's 2 wings to it, then we treat them separately. So that's how our ordinance reads. So technically, the applicant's proposing 2 additional signs. So what I'm recommending is either approving just one of the angled signs or requiring that the addition be designed as a back-to-back sign mounted in the same plane as the existing sign. Otherwise, they would have to apply for a variance, which, there's not really a hardship here. So it's a design. What they want to do is I think, a more creative design, but our ordinance, it would exceed the parameters in our ordinance. And I don't know if I captured everything, Kurt.
Are the parameters based solely on square footage, Mark?
You
Yeah,
need
you
to
can-
use the microphone.
So the recording.
The question was, while he's coming up, are the parameters based solely on square footage?
Yeah.
Well, for surface area calculation, there's a paragraph that pertains to how we measure the signs, and I have that language in here.
Because here's what's changed. Just as of yesterday, I found out Joan is retiring, and she's no longer going to want a presence on this sign, so that would eliminate that amount. So it went from what I had originally calculated as 41.0625 square feet per side down to 30.42.
Are you saying you'd want to keep the wings of the
Well,
sign
I didn't
and
know
not
if total
replace?
square footage impacted, if it was more an orientation issue, or if it was total square footage that was coming into play.
Yes.
Little of both?
It's a little of both, yeah. So if her space is being vacated, you could move to that space, but it sounds like you'd rather keep the design element the way
I
you're
would,
proposing.
simply because I think they're more visible in that plane and that orientation, you know, as people pass on Airport Road or walking on the sidewalk.
Yeah, then the issue remains the same.
Yeah, truly it does, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but Mark, the total square footage would be down if that one sign is gone, right? I'm not sure I understood what you just said.
Well, I see. So since she's at the bottom, if you remove that sign, the square footage would be less. That is true. Yeah. I didn't have it in front of me. So
then he doesn't even need to get any approvals. does
well,
he?
no. Well, it's modifying the design of the sign, so that always comes to the commission. So if he's within the square footage, then that's fine. Then that's okay. Yes.
So Kurt, did you say you were within the square footage?
So right now, we would be at 30.42 with the removal of Jones
Okay.
on the existing sign, and then these wings that I'm proposing, and I've got them drawn at 18 by 62, and if anything, I may go down to 16 inches. As I mock them up, they look plenty big at 18 inches, but that's only 7.75 square feet per sign. So it'd be another 15 and a half.
So 59.
And the max is 50, Mark, is that what it was?
I believe that's what I wrote in the.
That's what I thought I saw. We were at 56 with the wings counting both sides.
Is that after the removal of Jones? Was that
That's
before?
It looks
Okay.
like after the removal is like 45.9 or something. I just added up what you just said.
Yeah, that
56.
quick math would be about right to me too.
There's a slight wrinkle here, which I almost hate to point out, but since several of you are new on the commission, I'll point it out. We have a provision in our code that stipulates how much space is allowed beneath the ground sign before it has to become a monument sign. So in other words, we allow a maximum height of, in other words, we allow a pole sign up to a height of 3 feet. And then above that, if it's a sign that's taller than that, then it has to sit on a can't think of the word now, on a monument, on a wider structure, on a base that is at least, I think it's 2/3 of the width of the sign, if I remember right. So technically, by removing Joan Pregler, you're 6 inches above that.
What's the height on that, Mark?
3 feet, a maximum of 3 feet.
Okay.
This is where I hate to be nitpicky.
So if we remove that and just blanked it out with a corrugated aluminum, a white background, does that get us back to within? Because that's probably what's going to happen, the way the sign is constructed. If we just take that off, it's going to be kind of ugly, the substructure. So we'll want to cover that with something.
May I suggest that this is sort of staff work at this point? Maybe
Okay.
we'll work on it with him instead of here.
Okay,
I
so
just want to make a comment on this.
yes,
To me, this
Dave
looks-
and then Dennis.
Okay.
I have two problems. One, vertical lettering, I think is atrocious. And I will vote against this. If I have a chance to vote, I will vote against this, just on that grounds alone. The other thing is, you have a sign which is 6 feet wide by 18 inches high, right, already. There is plenty, I drove by it, so there's plenty of room on that sign to put carpentry showroom.
On the existing
On the existing sign. And if you're telling me now as well that the one sign is going to be defunct, you could take over that one as well if you needed it and say carpentry showroom on that, without sort of adding what I see as two rather distracting wings from the quality of the monument. There's plenty of room on that to write more.
True. What I'm trying to do is create some kind of a visual impact, because I've been there since 1996, and the amount of walk-in traffic that's what I'm trying ultimately to do, is create more walk-through traffic, because people don't really know that I even exist as a custom cabinetry business there, just by virtue of, and that, unfortunately my sign being up, if you drove by there, you see is how high it is. It's not all that impactful as you drive by. It's not the one you see. The sight line is fixed, so that's what everybody sees.
Okay, so move the other two down and put the extra the spare one into that space.
That could be proposed to Warren Imhoff, I suppose.
I mean, Mark, I'm not taking it away from you. I think your comment is right, but I mean, I just it looks ugly.
And the people at the sign company pointed that out to me. I didn't know any better when I did this. I just did this as something to propose to y'all. And they said that the orientation of the lettering is wrong. So that is a fact. I will go along with that.
Dennis?
What is the rule in terms of signage for a business? They can have one on the building or one on this monument, or?
You're allowed one facade sign and one ground sign. If it's a multi-tenant building, then we require all the individual tenant signs to be on one ground sign, one monument sign.
Well,
which this is.
Well, if this appeared as the wings, wouldn't that in fact be multiple signs, and wouldn't it in fact, I guess the thing that puzzles me, it seems to me it's a redundant sign, because that business has two signs, or three signs, however you want to divide it. And David's point is well taken. I mean, the problem is not necessarily with the location of the sign, it is perhaps the design of the sign, and make it more impactful. Have some graphic artist make one that's 1.5 times what you have right now, and you'll fit within the numbers. You'll have something that's more attractive to catch the eye. And the other thing I noticed, that you have not discussed, but one side of the sign, as you're going east, is lit. On the other side, looking west, it is not lit, although at one time it must have been, because it was a stanchion.
Somebody destroyed that on the east side of the sign.
But that's another issue in here, is how is it lit? So.
And that's in the works to get that fixed.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch both of them probably to LED or something. But
yeah,
the one we came out with was just smashed off the pedestal.
Betty?
The way this was proposed, this to me looked like it was just you ran out of space, let's put this on here. And now when you're saying with Joan off of here, covering that with white, I don't think matters, because we're not counting white space, we're counting surface area for the signs. And I believe that this should be within the sign boundaries.
Existing.
Yes, Kurt?
So, I understand a business owner wants an impactful sign, but the city wants to avoid everybody trying to out-impactful sign with each other, because it creates clutter. So, Mark suggests that we make a motion to defer this to staff, because if it's going to fit on the existing sign, then there's really no decision item.
I think that's,
and you're unlikely to get a variance, because there's no hardship here.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So that's my motion.
So have it added to the body of the sign, not a wing.
To defer it.
To defer it and to staff.
Let the staff handle it.
If you want to give direction with it, that's perfectly fine. That's your right.
Have the wing and have it.
Yeah.
Or the sign.
I just am saying that we're getting into some variables that are maybe best handled at the staff level, and if there's policy issues, we can bring it
I
back.
would think that we're not talking these wings.
Yeah.
I'll second the
If we're,
motion.
if we're talking the wings, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, Leaf seconded it, so any more discussion?
I didn't hear
Can I-
you.
It seems to me we're talking about reworking that sign, that's as complicated as unscrewing
Yeah.
some screws and moving the plywood around. Everything is all it is.
I would amend my motion
There's
to
4x4s and
I would amend my motion to say defer to staff, but that we are recommending against the wings.
Okay, okay. And Leaf, you agree with that? Okay, further discussion on this one.
I thought you were gonna recommend that Dennis go out and help you.
He's got a screwdriver.
you give Dennis $400 on a plan.
Well, actually, went and looked at that sign too yesterday, so it looks, well, anyway. Okay, so if there's no more discussion, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion as amended and whatever is passed, so. Okay, thank you. Well, you got a lot of input here, right? So, you got a lot of input to work on, yes. Okay, now we are on to the amendment to lighting ordinance 33.07 relating to flags and similar objects. So we already have public hearing on this one.
I'll
and-
make a motion to approve.
Okay, need a second.
It's to
Okay.
recommend approval to
To
the
recommend
council.
approval.
To recommend, yeah.
Yes.
I do have one question, and that is, let's see, I kind of lost it here now. Well, there is something about proving that you can't, that that there are no alternatives, and I forgot what.
Well, Dennis, while you're shopping around for that, I would suggest that we think about, I don't know if we can put it as part of the motion or not, but that it be used very sparingly, maybe only on US flags. Because I know we do want to continue to have our dark sky concept as much as we possibly can have.
Well, you can make that as a part of the motion, so would you
I'm buying
accept
the
that
time.
amendment?
Yeah, B, yeah. Well, the other thing is, that isn't really so much as, what I was concerned about is who determines whether something is practical or economically reasonable. Now, in fact, as I mentioned, and I brought to this meeting, a cut sheet that showed downlighting for a flagpole.
Oh, yes, it's very available.
Yes.
I think the issue was maintenance of the lighting.
That's not the
Getting up
issue.
there to change those light bulbs is problematic for some organizations. I
That's
think
not
what we
what-
heard from
that
the
is not
DPW.
what this
So they were
says.
referring to have uplighting if possible.
I agree with you, but that's not what this says.
Okay.
What Leaf mentioned though was having the reference to the US flag in there, which I think is a good idea and really narrows down when it can be used.
Yeah, and then there in very special circumstances
Right.
with the U.S. flag.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we lose our dark sky concept
Right.
altogether. And I know the city has invested many dollars in downlighting of our streetlights and that
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah.
So I think we just don't want to dilute that if at all possible. So in very special circumstances, uplighting the U.S. flag.
Yep.
Well, then, should it not, does it say something here
It
about
doesn't
US
say that.
flag?
No,
But I
no.
think you're,
No.
Well, then maybe that should be in here as well.
Number
four.
Number 4.
Any,
Well, in section 8, it refers to flags mounted on the top poles. May be illuminated with upward directed lighting by approval of a lighting plan. Such a lighting plan to the greatest. So even though it says flag and statue illumination in the title of the ordinance, it only refers to flags.
and it still would have to be proved again, so.
Right.
But it should only refer to US.
And that say US flags?
This flags at this time.
I would have to check with our city attorney. He worked on this language with the License and Ordinance Committee, actually is where this originated, which is a little unusual, but he did run it by me, so I didn't have an objection to it. But I would, since I didn't work on, I would need to ask that
We could
question.
bring it back.
Yeah, we could bring it back.
Yeah.
There's no reason we can't.
You know, you could.
Yeah.
Because there may be other nationalities that want to fly a flag. You know, I'm just saying, you don't
Well-
want to get into
I
that.
think you're making a good point, not just with but somebody's flag that doesn't have any nationality at all associated with it,
Well,
but
would be available now, at least apply
Right.
for it.
right, so they could say, you know, our whatever, or, Packer flag, our organization needs a flag or whatever, and we're all too
Well,
old. to
Packer
have
flags
Okay.
are automatically exempt.
So, do you want to change refer it to some
It's
later
being
time?
deferred, this one also.
Okay, so somebody want to make
I'll
that?
make a motion for deferral.
Okay, need a second.
Second.
Okay, any motion on the deferral? Any discussion on this one? Otherwise, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion passes, and the instruction for Mark is to go back to our attorney and see that it could be specific U.S. flag.
I'll run that idea up the flagpole.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, right.
No, I didn't actually.
That was a brilliant comment.
Okay, the next one is a concept review of Gateway Project Plan Development District. This is infill PPD 1. It's proposed by Jeff, 2109 North Gateway Street. And this is to set a public hearing for rezoning.
And that should not have been listed on the agenda. I missed that we aren't ready to set a public hearing because we don't have the GIP yet. So that should not have been on the agenda, so we'll have the minutes indicate that we're not setting a hearing.
And we did distribute a letter that we received from the neighbor at your place tonight.
Okay.
Taking that.
So we are not doing anything on this one then?
No, what's before you, I'll give a brief overview
Oh.
very briefly, and the developer
Okay.
I'm sure wishes to speak too. So this was before you last year, October, well, before a few of you anyway. Last October, the Planning Commission conceptually approved a 5-lot subdivision in which each lot met the minimum dimensional requirements for an R1 zone site. The developer is here tonight, Tom Goff. He has done some additional thinking about this property and is now interested in a 7-lot single-family subdivision, which would require rezoning because all 7 lots couldn't meet. There's not enough space to have 7 lots and meet all the parameters of the R1 standards. So that's the background I would have. There's additional comments here in my staff report, but I'm sure Tom wants to.
Okay, Tom, you want to say
I
anything?
thought I had submitted the GIP on the second page of the SIP. I submitted it to Abby.
I know she fielded this first, so maybe I missed something. And if I did, I'm sorry. I don't.
For those of us who are new, can you just remind us, when we recommend a rezoning of a PDD, we need both the general development plan and the SIP for the rezoning?
You could recommend to the council for the GIP, the framework of it, and then have the SIP come in later.
Okay.
Or you can do both.
Do both at the same time. So we do not have a GIP?
Well, the file for the project doesn't have it, but we get a lot of things electronically now. Maybe I missed it, but I don't see it in here, so I can quickly go check while he talks with you.
But if we
The
don't
point is you don't
have
have
it,
it, so
if nobody has looked at it, we can't really
Right.
prove it, right?
Okay, so we can, you can certainly tell us about Tom.
Yeah.
Why you're going
Yeah, go
to
ahead,
five
Tom.
seven.
It's 2 lots, existing lots now on Gateway and Sharon Cross. And what I'm proposing is 7 lots, and we've laid it out so it works out pretty nicely. I think it's a pretty unique situation, and it really lays out perfectly in my eyes. There is an existing sewer on the back of lot 4 with the existing neighbor on Gateway, and that's kind of limiting our grading plan and some of the things we can do. I was reading the staff comments, they were talking about some joint driveways, and this particular instance, I just don't see it working out. You could possibly look at a joint driveway with lot 7 and lot 4, but there's not enough space in between there. Typically, we need about 60 feet, 20 feet from car drive aprons on each side and 20 foot in between, but we have only got 46 there. And then with the grading, we always try to get our garages up on the high side, and if we had to go up to a joint driveway, we'd have to flip them, and it wouldn't work out for a grading plan there. With this existing sewer, it's not that deep, and we're down to like a 1% grade on, for instance, lot 1, and we have to go to like a 6-inch versus a 4-inch pipe there, things like that. So, you know, it's infill. Sometimes there's difficulties and challenges with existing conditions, and I just don't see it working out in this particular case. But the homes themselves, they've kind of gotten bumped up to about 1,900 square feet. They all have 2-car garages. They're 2 stories. They'll all have exposed floor levels because the grade's there again. So it works out pretty nice. Our side lots are about 6.5 versus 8 for R1, and we can meet most of our front setbacks and rear yards for most of the homes out there. So it seems like it's working out fairly nicely. There is a rain garden proposed in the back of lots 1, 2, 3, and we've also are adding a curb inlet between lots 3 and 4 that will pick up some of the impervious surface from a couple of driveways and channel that back to the rain garden there. So we're trying to accommodate less impervious surface, basically. So.
Any questions? Yeah, Kurt.
And I'll just speak, I'm on the Workforce Housing Committee, and we saw this proposal and talked with Tom at length. And you have notes in the staff comment there of our committee voted 8-0 to recommend approval. And to summarize the discussion, even though the price point a little bit above what we might call workforce housing, it definitely represents a need within Middleton for what you might call a smaller starter type house. And we've seen around the country and actually around Dane County these kind of small lot subdivisions as a way to get kind of high quality kind of urban infill, but in a single family sort of arrangement as kind of a transition between the multifamily on the south side and the more single family neighborhood on the north.
What is the price point of these houses?
Well, I was hoping to be at that $350 price point, but I kind of want to do some things that are like a composite wood siding versus vinyl siding, and I'd like to do maybe some spray foam insulation versus bad insulation, things like that. Add some features which I think are kind of unique and add a little color to the neighborhood. They have screen porches, every one of them, and they're slightly larger. For people that don't know me, the last project I did similar to this was the Amherst Road about 5 years ago.
Which has been incredibly popular.
Yes, Kurt.
One of the things we talked about at Workforce Housing was trying to think about the idea of a shared driveway between 4, 3, 2, 1, kind of shared driveway with slip parking in the back, so it'd be more townhouse style. And I think for various reasons, Tom convinced us that that's, although a nice design option, not really feasible on this site.
So do you think 350 is starter home, that's affordable housing or purpose?
350 is a starter home for new construction in Middleton right now. But it's not what we would consider workforce housing, because generally, just doing some quick math in my head, you would have to have a family income over the 80% of median income to afford these. But there is there's not a lot of new construction in the 1,800 to 2,200 square foot range within Middleton right now. But it's a different size, different style.
Dennis?
Are we looking at the exact footprint of the buildings as they would?
They're very close. We have an architect. We've been doing simultaneous work with the engineer and the surveyor to get things to fit. And what we did is we took one of the plans from Amherst, I just call it the C plan, which is one of the most popular plans, and we basically modified it. And so we've sized it to fit on these lots, and that's where we're at right now. So those are pretty much the exact plans that will be there. You know, I've always think that lots 1 through 4 will accommodate a ranch too, because they've got that increased depth back to the rain garden. There's an average of about 150 foot of depth there. And there is a market for ranches, so if somebody did come in and wanted a ranch, we don't change the front setbacks or the side, but we could push it out to the rear. And I'm not sure if that would be a SIP modification at that point or not, but it's something that somebody, as the market kind of matures, I think there's a need for more ranches.
One of the things that you could do, I didn't interrupt, I'm sorry, but one of the things you could do if you wanted to is you could direct staff to set the hearing at the time that we have all the information, and then we would get the notice in the paper, as we class 2 notice in twice, notify the neighbors, and it probably won't be July 25th because we can't get it in the paper probably.
Sure.
But maybe it's August 8th if we have all the information.
And I did not find emails from Abby or from, I searched on your name and the 2 street names, Gateway, and I don't see it.
I delivered it, I didn't do anything electronic.
Okay.
So what do you,
So I would like to make the motion as what Eileen just outlined.
okay, so
Yeah.
need a second?
Well,
To let
wait,
it-
so
But I have a question.
Yeah, yes,
is
go
the
ahead.
motion to concept approval
Well, that's
and
what-
set the public hearing, or should we separate those as separate motions?
That was my question after she just talked about setting the hearing, but our concept is changing from 5 houses to 7
It
houses.
is, and you don't have to, you don't have to act on the concept if you don't want to, and concept review is not binding on the city.
Right.
Conflict if you choose to do concept, so it's up to you guys.
Well, if I
But-
were the developer, I might like some feedback on
That's true.
whether,
If we're rolling that direction or not.
yeah, exactly.
So can you clarify what your motion is?
Yes,
I
Eileen,
think
what's your
concept
motion?
approval of the 7.
Concept approval
Yep.
plus recommend
Right.
public
exactly.
hearing
Thank you.
once staff has
So you
a
did
complete
approve
GIP.
concept approval?
Just did.
Okay, all right.
How am I doing?
I'll second that.
Good.
Unless,
Okay.
or you already did.
We have people trying to make comments.
So could we can let people speak, right, or not?
Well, there's gonna be a public hearing for it,
You're
so
not
typically we wouldn't because it's not noticed to do that, and then people that don't come because it's not noticed might think, wait a minute, why weren't we told that we could speak? It's not that they won't have an opportunity to give feedback, because they will, and you have a letter from a neighbor already.
Right.
You want to read that letter or not, or?
Yeah.
But it's going to be part of the record.
It is part of
Okay.
the record now.
Okay.
We will make it part of the
Okay.
record.
I'd like to speak though briefly to the concept if I could. I'm one of the neighbors.
Well,
Could we let us
I'm
speak?
the person who wrote
I'm
the
concerned
letter.
about, why I get concerned about this is because it wasn't noticed as an
Wasn't noticed.
opportunity to speak, so if some people show up and speak, that's fine, but there might be other people who wouldn't have shown up to speak had they known.
Yes, so,
It's not that we don't want the feedback.
It's not that I
it's
don't
just-
wanna hear them, I just wanna give everybody the same opportunity.
Yeah, and it might be best for your comments at the public hearing, so others that are going to make comments at the
Well, the
public
thing
hearing.
is, the concept is likely to develop before the public has an opportunity to speak to it. I mean,
Well-
things have already advanced to a certain degree, and the neighborhood has not had any impact on that.
Well, when we approve a motion to set a public hearing for the rezoning request, then the content of that rezoning request would be shared with the neighborhood, and they would have a chance to comment at the public hearing or to write comments
Well, I mean,
via letter.
I don't know whether you know, but across the street from us, every single tree on this property was taken down last week. And it's created the impression upon those of us who live in the area that this has already been approved as a de facto kind of thing.
Nope.
No.
The fact that every single tree was so that you folks can't come back later and say, well, why didn't you save those trees? It's too late, they're all gone. It's an empty lot now.
When I built my house 13 years ago on Gateway and Mound Drive, I was told I could not take down a single tree except on the building envelope. I had to get special permission to put a deck onto my house. And then, 12 years later, along comes the city, takes down half our trees, puts in a sidewalk and a huge terrace.
Wait.
We built on that lot so we wouldn't have to shovel
Okay, so-
and mow and do that. And the city just bulldozes things through.
Excuse me,
Yes, Dale.
are these trees in the terrace?
Are the public
No,
trees
we're
or
talking about
private?
trees on the property. This plan was
Well, we-
originally proposed for rezoning, and at that point, the developer promised to save some of the
So-
trees. Even hired an arborist to mark some of the trees to be saved. They are all gone now. These were large trees.
Okay,
When
so,
they started chainsawing those trees, a family of wild turkeys came waddling down our street looking for a new place to live.
so let's, what's our ordinance or people
There-
on their property
we-
can take?
You understand, we can't take public comment unless we've given a public
Yes.
notice that there's a hearing, so we,
So we have to, if you want to write a letter, George would be very happy to publish it. I think that may not be a bad idea.
or
So,
write a letter to the
send a
commission.
letter to us, otherwise there will be public hearing. So there's a,
My concern is that the developer will continue to move ahead, so that things.
Well, he can't.
The
Fate of
developer,
Hopi.
the
He can't.
developer isn't the one who cut the trees down, I think it was the property owner. He's not the person who did that. The property owner has the perfect right to cut the trees down. We may not like it, but he has that right.
Well, why could the city restrict that for the earlier plan?
Well, because they were proposing a rezoning, and
Well,
that
isn't
didn't-
this a rezoning?
but he's not the owner. He's not the one who did it. It's
You
a
know,
different
our neighborhood
entity.
is called Hines Woods, now it's Hines Prairie.
okay, well, how about if we, there will be public hearing, you will have an opportunity to, you and others, everybody to come and speak. And one of you have sent a letter, and that will be part of the record as well. So what we are essentially setting the public hearing, or we are asking the staff to set a public hearing.
Concept approval and
And
public hearing.
I was
seconded it.
I want to
Cindy's
make a
second.
comment.
Yes, Kathy.
I would rather wait on the concept approval until we have public comment. You can see people are, this is their neighborhood, and I think that we should wait and give them a chance, because when we say concept approval, then already they have the thought that it's going ahead without any of their input. I'd like to wait on
And I
the
think
concept.
people need to understand how the concept, I think,
Uh,
Eileen explained it very perfectly, it's not binding
It's not
on
binding
us.
on
us. It's not-
All we're saying is that we like the
idea,
concept,
the
the
land use.
idea. What it allows is the neighborhood to understand exactly where we think we're going, and for them to make comment on that.
And
Otherwise, we may be just talking about 5 lots. That's what could be done,
What is there?
without any kind of zoning change, I believe.
Right,
Right.
5 lots
And-
have already
and-
been approved.
Yeah, and actually, just to clarify, this body, without any public hearing, could approve a 5-lot subdivision here without any public hearing at all. And the trees are, that, as you noted already, that was private property, so the city had no jurisdiction over those trees.
So all we're saying now is that we're thinking maybe a 7-unit in this area might be feasible as a concept.
Exactly.
And then we want to hold a public hearing, and we want your input at the public hearing on 7-lot concept. And I know that maybe the neighborhood won't be supportive, but
Everybody
that's
in
what
the
we want to hear
neighborhood.
about.
So-
So Kathy, that's all it does.
I know, but that's why I'm
Okay.
saying that we already have the 5 lot, and I would rather have people feel like we're not pushing the 7 right down, down their throats and making it.
So we are not pushing that, it's essentially
Wait a minute.
hearing
Yeah.
for that, yes, Cindy.
I think I understand what Kathy's trying to say, but if we weren't considering a change in what we've already approved,
Then
there'd
there's
be
no
no need for a
there's no
public
action.
hearing.
Right.
Right.
So we have to tell people we're considering a change
Okay.
in what was already approved.
So it's hearing that we are thinking of a change, and the
Of
public
changing
hearing
it from
will be
5 to
with
7.
respect to that.
Yes.
And so that people can provide input, and then the decision will be made.
Exactly.
Yep,
Okay.
that's the
Exactly.
process.
It's ultimately a rezoning that we recommend to the city council.
Right.
Well, the 5 lots didn't need to be rezoned?
No,
or
because they
No.
fit
Okay.
into
They fit into R1.
Five lots to be
Okay.
done.
Yeah.
They fit into the existing zoning, so we
Yeah.
didn't have to do anything
So
with that.
if they would prefer the 5 lots and they're opposed to the 7 lots, they should really come and speak.
Tell us at the public hearing.
Absolutely.
Exactly, that's the purpose of the public hearing.
It was proposed to rezone it earlier.
Couple years ago.
And that plan was for townhouses, for 10 townhouses, which actually would have been less crowded than this. and that was withdrawn.
So that's history. Okay.
Okay, so now any more comments from the commissioners? Yes, Dennis.
I just wanted to explain why I asked about the envelope, and that is that every one of these sort of infill projects that we've had, we have multiple SIP modifications coming to us, which makes you kind of wonder. I mean, it's talk about busy work. It really is sort of busy work for the Plan Commission to do that. If we should not be setting ourselves up so that is the case. So if they stay within this, because now we have a certain setbacks and so forth, great.
Sure.
If not, then we should work to that, because we're looking for a wandering.
That's true. One of the nice things about the Amherst one is there haven't been a lot of those because they were carefully
Designed and laid out.
designed and laid
Yeah.
out.
So it was sort of premature for it to be here.
I'd like to say that I think that the Amherst houses are very attractive. I think they would be very nice, but if you drive down the street over there, they are absolutely identical houses, jowl by jowl with their neighbors, and they're not in keeping with the kind of development that has taken place on Gateway, where each house is unique in terms of its style and its design. So I think, I would be in favor of some kind of development on that property, but to have houses that are absolutely the same like that suggests that they are not very attractive housing.
Okay, any more discussion from the commission, please, here?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all those in
might be worth
favor of the
restating
motion, you want to read the motion? It's ask the staff to set a public hearing date.
Concept approval plus include set a public hearing.
For that concept, yes. And having all the material, SIP and GIP ready, so. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as read by Arlene, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion is passed and the public hearing date will be set, and you will all have an opportunity along with other neighbors to come and present your views. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is, yes, Connie.
I have to comment that it has always been difficult to hear in this room if you're in the audience, and so I haven't heard everything. But I came for two reasons, and I certainly am glad to hear other neighbors who are expressing their opinion. One, I wanted to be sure that you set a date that is soon enough and not when everything's just about done, because we have been frightened by the fact that you let all those trees go down even though there was no plan for the area. So I have two things that I came for tonight. One, I want to find out when the date is of the hearing, and I would encourage you to have it before too long so we get a chance to let everyone know what we are.
Thank you, Connie. So Eileen will make sure that that happens.
The developer can't do anything until the rezoning has occurred.
Okay, and city would let you know. It will be, the date will be published, and
And you won't let the plan go too far before you...
no, it would not. It would not.
He has to have a certain amount, though. The applicant always has to have a certain amount that has to get submitted so that the city, the planning commission, and the council can evaluate the plan. That's how, we look at what are the homes going to look like, what's the footprint, what are the standards that are being proposed. So there's a certain amount that we have to have in order to evaluate it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Connie. Really appreciate your coming and really appreciate your comments as well. So.
Be here for is to make sure that the people that are going to have to make the decisions on these things are thinking not only of the numbers of house you can get in or the number of people you can crowd into Middleton, but the quality of the infill. We understand the value of infill in this day and age, but that doesn't mean that we just want everything to be filled in. And I would certainly invite anyone on this commission to stop in and see our neighborhood. It's very nice. Everyone who lives there has tried hard to put something attractive in there, and not just the same old thing that we have seen and that we see in the picture.
I agree with you completely. So I have been actually there, and it looks very nice. I have been, not today, but I have been to that neighborhood more than once. And that is in past about couple of months. So I was planning to go there today, but it just didn't happen. I have been to that neighborhood more than once, actually recently. I was planning to go there today, but since we were just setting the public hearing for that, and I thought, well, maybe I will go in a day or two, and I will be coming there. So.
Okay, and I hope the others have all been down Gateway Street too, because it's very nice.
Thank you for your input. Really appreciate that. Okay.
So now we're waiting for you to set the date of this hearing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time and your input.
Connie, if you'd like to talk to me or to Eileen in the next couple of days, if you'd like to stop by or give us a call, I can walk you through anything you missed. But if you call and make an appointment, yeah, and we'd be happy to walk you through anything that you weren't able to hear tonight. I will be happy to help you with it. It's up to you. The point is, we're happy to answer any questions you have outside of this meeting. We need to move on with the agenda.
Well, I have several, not questions so much from what you had in the report.
Mark will be happy to, Mark or Eileen will be more than happy to Connie talk to you and just set up some time, and he will listen to whatever your concerns are. Absolutely. Yes, not next Tuesday, because that's July 4th. So.
July 4th.
Okay, well, the next item on the agenda is tax incremental financing, district number 3, amendment number 11, with Strand Associates for engineering and consulting services for TIF number 3.
And just for, okay, I was just going to explain for the members that we typically have an engineering consultant that we have ongoing contracts with, and planning consultant for our TIF.
Would you explain?
Yeah.
All right. So I would make a motion that we recommend approval to the Common Council.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on raising this money for the Strand and Associates from 300,000 to 350 cumulative, that is. Okay, if there are no more discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion for the Strand and Associates for the TIF 3 contract is passed. Okay, so the next one is updated Walker parking study, Middleton Center, 7507 Hubbard Avenue, and 1818 Parmenter Street, 7609 and 7611 Elmwood Avenue, and 1800 Parmenter Street, and 7600 Terrace Avenue.
And I'm just recommending acceptance of the report and recommend acceptance.
I'll do that.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? We have gone at it multiple times. Okay, if there are no more discussion, I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion to accept the Walker study is passed, Walker parking study. So the next one is proposed general implementation plan modification for Middleton Center, 7507 Hubbard Avenue, 1818 Parmenter Street, 7609 and 7611 Elmwood Avenue, 1800 Parmenter Street, and 7600 Terrace Avenue. Yes, Eileen is going to say something about it. So.
I put a memo in your packet with the conditions of approval that were slightly modified from the one that was distributed at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. There's just a couple changes that I thought about. One of them is the new members haven't really seen the parking management plan, so instead of having staff approve it, we have a pretty detailed parking management plan that was previously approved. Now my recommendation would be to ask you to include a condition that the parking management plan be revised to reflect whatever gets approved tonight and approved by the council and brought back to the plan commission for approval, so that you can see the full. And it's designed to be a supplement to the zoning so that we can track the requirements for the parking. You know, no gated parking and that type of thing. The signage is considered in there. So that was one thing.
So wait a minute, what did you want?
Instead of having the parking management plan, the revised one, which isn't submitted yet, be approved by staff, I'm just recommending it come back to the plan commission for approval. And then whenever you're ready, I can talk just a little bit about parking and recommendation that I have too. Most of the engineering recommendations are technical and they are addressing them. There was a big one regarding the fire department and they addressed that today. But it should still be subject to all of the resolution of staff comments, and you do have a copy of the engineering ones.
So you will update this?
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
They have had that, and they're working on updating.
Okay. Okay.
Most of them are technical issues, and they are policy.
Yep.
But the policy issues for the plan commission relate to the GIP amendment and the SIP amendment for the changes in the land use, and then the parking. And I think we're close on the parking. We really are.
So a lot of them are technical issues.
They
most of them.
are. And the ones I have early on are they're more related to the zoning. Phase 3 buildings are not approved as part of GIP yet because they've been in they're in an easement. They need to be moved out of there likely. So that condition just carries over from the previous approval. As far as the parking, on phase 1, if they add the 17 lifts, the recommendation is, they'll be too short. Again, this is a formula.
Oh, okay, for too short for that part.
For the daytime.
Okay.
Yeah, for just phase 1.
Yes.
And 9 on the weekend. But they've also proposed potentially offering reduced price bus passes for some employees, some restaurant employees. And also, we do have the Terrace Avenue lots. If they're short 2 or 6 during the week in the evenings, that's pretty easily made up by just parking in our public lots.
So if they are 17, that's it. So they're free here then.
Yeah, then as it gets on phase 2, once they have those lifts in and they have the temporary parking elsewhere, during the weekday evening, they actually have, according to the formula, which again is just a
shortage of 58.
Well, actually, that's after phase 3 on the weekday.
Okay.
But they would have a little bit of a surplus during the weekday evening, but they would be short in the weekend evening.
Okay.
According to 58 is after all 3 phases. I was just going by phase.
Or phase 2 is what?
That isn't what it says in here.
No.
Yeah, we don't have those details.
I didn't put those details in there. I was just trying to reassure people because one of the questions is, well, what happens after each phase?
Okay.
That's after completion of 3 phases and the addition of the lifts. They would be short 6 after 5 p.m. during the week and 58 after 5 p.m. on weekends. And my recommendation was the 6,
That's a standard error, so yeah. It's okay.
Weekends, perhaps it's 10 or 12 reduced cost bus passes and a lease with, or even, Mike Davis reminded me that we actually have an agreement with Veterans Health Administration because the owner of that building.
Yeah.
And there doesn't have to be a lease arrangement.
It's free.
They're allowing public to park there evenings and weekends. Well, it's about 4/10 of a mile, I think. If you come down Terrace and go across the tracks, there's a pedestrian crossing. If that were kept open all the time, it's not that bad.
Yes, Kat.
We talked about this a little bit before, way back. On the weekends, would you be willing to offer valet parking during that evening? Then they could park across in the fire station and I think that would go a lot further than, and also the bus passes. If you're looking at hiring like UW students or whatever, they already have a bus pass. And this was only approved for this year. there's no funding set aside for next year, and it's only through Monday through Friday. It doesn't help the weekends. And I'm wondering if there's a way to, instead of that, somehow incorporate Uber or taxis or something to instead, because these people on the weekends, it's going to be, that's when they need the employees there.
Yeah, so you're talking about the Metro bus starting August 1st?
It's approved for Monday through
Yes.
Friday for this year.
Yes, starting August 1st, yes.
Right.
What is approved? The additional
They
route?
have a late bus, 11 o'clock bus. But they don't have that in the budget for next year, and it doesn't cover weekends.
Yeah, well, we don't have a budget for next year, so.
Well, I was going to say, we haven't submitted budget requests for next year, so
Yes.
that it's premature to commit to.
Yeah.
But it's still Monday through Friday, and I think that
Yeah.
because
Fair
of
enough.
the weekends, that's when you're looking
That's
for.
true. That
But
is
your
the-
point is that it can't be counted on to make up these
Yeah.
spaces.
It's only Monday
That's
through
true.
Friday, Mark?
But if you had a
No, no.
Lyft or Uber or something.
Okay.
Or at least somewhere where you were ferrying people or whatever. And also the other component, and I've talked to Terrence and
Mhm.
Steve, would be that there's a critical evaluation by the city after full occupancy of 1 year in phase one, just to see what's working and what's not and what changes
Mhm.
might need to occur.
And that's essential. I'm sure you would agree. Dave, you have any questions? David?
No, not about the numbers, I don't.
Okay,
From what I
okay.
hear, the numbers work.
Okay.
I have questions about the parking that worry me a little bit. If I am renting a unit there, I don't have a guaranteed space, correct?
You don't have if you're renting a unit, if you have a 2-bedroom unit, you will be doing a dedicated 2-space dedicated lift that would be reserved for you, and then you have everyone else would be in non-reserved spaces, non-reserved. So you don't have an assigned space.
Do you plan to have a custodian, parking custodian of some kind?
No.
I mean, what happens when the machine jams?
So we have multiple people in our staff went out to California to meet with the manufacturer, get a demonstration on the machines, the lifts, and then we have the lift company was training our staff in lift operations, but also maintenance. We have to maintain the lifts. So we're doing that. We have maintenance people. We have 4 full-time maintenance people on staff, and we have an on-call system for emergencies or problems 24/7 for people to respond, or maintenance engineers to respond.
Okay.
Now remember, to give you an example, if we have nearly 400 spaces in the garage at night and 220 apartments, so we'll use about 250 parking spaces. So we'll have 150 or so empty parking spaces, and those will probably be the upper levels of lift. So I imagine the top levels of lift won't be used much, maybe Friday night or Saturday night when the public is coming in.
Couple more questions. What stops? I've been looking at it online and sort of YouTube's up the wazoo to try and see how this all works. What stops somebody driving into the required empty space on the ground, on the lower level?
So there's no tray in that space. There's no tray there. There's a rail, and then there are gates that come down. The gates were not installed when we had the tours on Saturday.
Okay.
So there are gates that come down.
What stops me being able to drive into that space?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good question.
And the last one was just a question of security. This was from my daughter. A single woman alone at night in a garage which the public have got entry into.
Well, now we've talked about this, and I want to distinguish between the gate and the garage door. So we're removing the gate, which would have prevented physical access without some kind of, card or something during the day. But at night, we still have a garage door, and that garage door will be on a timer. It will go down and lock down, and in order to get in, you'll have a garage door button. So the only people who can get in after, let's say, when the business is closed, let's say at 11 p.m., till, 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., you'll have to have a garage door to get in. Also, we have all of our properties, including this one, have numerous security cameras. One camera at every single door, every elevator, every exit. So anybody coming and going by car or foot is recorded on our cameras, and that's maintained for 2 weeks. We've actually caught vandals and burglars on the west side by giving videotape to the City of Madison Police when they had trouble catching these people. We caught them with our cameras. So we're very good with the cameras. Yeah. And we have a key fob system. So in order to get in the building, you have to have key fob, which also records that key fob number, which is tied to your name and your apartment number. So we know who's coming and going. Also, we can look up who came in through this door at a certain hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they need those
A lot
to
of
get to
lighting.
the different apartment levels also in the elevators?
I'm sorry?
Will they have the fobs? Will that be what gives them access to apartment level?
Yes. So let's say you're coming in to go to the restaurant. You can just press the elevator button to go to the first floor. But in order to get to second or third or fourth, you're going to need to swipe your key fob in the elevator. Yeah. That's a good question.
Yes, Cindy.
I'm just want to remain concerned about making sure we have enough parking. I don't want to, I mean, I was thinking of that tonight when I came down here and tried to find a parking place for this meeting. I mean, fortunately, our downtown is very popular, so I'm not willing to compromise on spaces, so I even get a little uncomfortable when you say, well, it's only 6 and that kind of stuff. So I just want people to know that.
One other thing I could mention.
Eileen shouldn't take 6 lightly. Yes.
6 is
everyone is important. Not just,
yes. I said this at the council. I don't know if I've said it here before, but of course, and we talked a little bit about last time too. These are estimates. Our parking requirements, if they met them completely, we could still have all kinds of parking issues. And these estimates from Walker, are that we think that it's all going to work, but we could still have issues. People might not be parking. We've done everything we can to work with the developer to make sure that the tenants who live there are parking underground, because we've had an issue before where we had a project that underground parking and they weren't necessarily doing that. So we might still have issues, and that's why I think, if we can have a requirement that we evaluate it, and I really don't take 6 lightly, but to get down to 6 from where we were,
that's a big progress.
Yeah.
No,
Now,
I agree. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I understand
what you're saying, because I think maybe the backup is that there's a lease, and my concern, and I talked to Walker Parking about it 2 weeks ago before the meeting, was, well, what if the lease gets canceled by whoever they're leasing from, and they said then that's a zoning compliance issue, and then they have to find something else. So,
and I mean, like you said, well, it's only 0.4 of a mile. Human behavior being what it is, some of those things could be issues. You can't.
You're right. Quarter of a mile is considered a 5-minute walk and a more walkable feel for things. So that's that's more than that.
Yeah.
I think putting
Now,
a year review in is a very wise move.
I do too.
That's really, and it will help in the future as well. If we find that that's over parked, then we will know that as well.
No, the evaluation is very important. So in that way, we'll know how good the Walker numbers were and how good the other numbers were. I mean, evaluation is absolutely important. I mean, you can't. Then we can evaluate and see if we need to make any changes for phase 2 or phase.
I agree. That's
phase 3.
How about if when the parking management plan comes back to the plan commission, that could include that provision as well? I mean, we have a lot of things in there about some of the things that we're being asked about, but like how it's going to function. But we could build that into it, and it could also be part of
the review.
Of the zone.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I think that should be.
And
I think that's a good idea.
Involved in the review.
Yeah, we agreed we would monitor, like we were talking about, maybe 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and like a 7 p.m. Monitor counts, do the counts every day for a year, and be able to report back exactly what was occurring and the types of, how many were renters, how many were, public, et cetera. And do that maybe sampling do that every, let's say for a full week, once every month, or something like that. So you've got every month, you've got at least a full week. The other thing that changed though is that, again, we were talking about the extra so-called shortage is in the evening, when all lots open up, BMOs open up, city lots open up. There's a lot of open parking lots The funeral lot is open up. Fireman's lot is open up. There's tons of extra parking lots open up in the evenings. But on top of that, the council did approve adding an 11:13 p.m. bus route, as we said, Monday through Friday. And I think we should, for next year's budget, look at having Saturday. But that was based upon, the chamber talking to me, and then we went and talked to the restaurants, and we asked how, and they did a count of their employees, and they came back with a count, and I added all that up, and we estimate 36. I mean, this is talking to real people, their employees. Would you need to take a bus? These are people who don't own a car, and they would definitely need to take a bus. 36 people. So 36 people are going to take that 11:13 p.m. bus route is what they've counted up. And they said most of these people are Hispanic. They don't own a car. They're going to have to take a bus. They live further away. And we said as part of our solution, we would offer discounted bus passes. And we could also throw in a B-cycle. We'd love to have a B-cycle station. Now we'd have to get 3 of them. We'd get to get UW Health and John Livesey and maybe the hotel group to each agree to do one. You need 3 to 4 to get Trek to bring a group of stations out here. So we'd be happy to do that too. But I think that bus route is a huge thing. And on Saturday night, Kathy, I agree. We'll try to arrange for some kind of shuttle. We can rent a shuttle. Very simple. It's not very expensive at all.
And also it will be important to have the ridership numbers. Kurt, you had a question?
Well, I just want to add to the bus service. So I'm in the process of getting ridership data. I already have some, but I'm trying to get a detailed, because I know that there's questions about that. I looked at the Saturday bus schedule right now, and adding a bus would be easy to do. Obviously, the council didn't officially make that decision, but I've heard from a number of people now that they wish they had. I would estimate the cost is $1,000 to add one run, but I'll follow up with at the staff level tomorrow to see if there's a way we can do that and find $1,000 to try and implement that. But for this year, I'm going to try, even though I think the council would endorse that.
I think so too.
But I'm sorry that I missed that. I didn't pick up on that.
I didn't know it wasn't part of it, but we do need the ridership numbers.
We will get that. We will get that.
Yes, Kurt.
So it seems like, to me, looking at the whole plan, what we're really talking about is restaurant traffic Friday and Saturday nights.
Right.
And the concern is other restaurants downtown that don't provide any off-street parking because they're older buildings. Are people really averse to parking? When you go downtown on a Friday or Saturday night to go out to dinner at 6:30, you expect to have to walk a couple blocks to find parking. I'm not sure why. I don't know why people are complaining about a lack of parking downtown, unless you're used to always driving right in front of where you always go. But that's not what it's just. I'd hate. So I like the idea that we continually monitor it, and if it's a problem, we have a clawback way to make the developer lease or provide more parking. But I'm convinced that in 10 years we're going to have the problem of what are we going to do with all these empty parking lots.
You're right.
No, that's why I think we want to make it very scientific that we will have the evaluation. Cindy.
I just want to make a very unscientific anecdotal that I was talking with a group of people today in my demographic, which is getting up there. And they were talking about how difficult it is to come downtown and eat because you have to walk so far. And a comment was made, well, they're doing all that they're doing for the millennials and all the young people. What about all of us that have lived in Middleton all these years and we can't even go downtown and eat? That's non-scientific and anecdotal, but it was a comment from a group of people. Sure.
Restaurants could certainly provide a valet service if they wanted to.
Yeah. But one idea to solve that, and I really think it is, what you hear from is the seniors, right? They want to park close to the restaurant when they go.
That's where I am, the senior.
Exactly. So I think, really one answer for that is for the city to consider adding some more senior parking spots or disability spots on the street or in the city lots. That would solve that problem because the young people then won't park in those and they can walk a little further, and that's a totally fair thing to do.
And I do feel
yes, David.
I've only just come onto this commission. For 30 years, I have been lecturing that parking is not the #1 problem.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It is not.
Yeah, that's true.
if we've got a problem with parking, it's because other things are working so well.
Yeah, that's a
No,
good.
we've got
yeah,
good
that's a
development,
good-
we've got lots of people downtown,
Shopping.
we've got people moving into the area, we've got people coming into shop,
Yep.
coming in to eat. And by the way, we need parking.
That's a good problem to have.
It's not number one issue,
Right.
and we shouldn't deal with it as such. And I think we've come to a solution here.
Okay, so somebody's going to make a motion now then? We had plenty of discussion, need a
Wait.
motion and second, and we need to prove it then?
Wait, what?
Yes.
So we have.
We are approving the proposed general implementation plan modification for the Middleton Center and with all those various numbers.
Well, so there's 3 parking options here. Are we making a choice on those options?
I really prefer the one that I kind of talked about in the staff comments.
The four,
Which is-
option 4.
Right, option 4.
Okay.
Because I think the other ones
It
were.
encompasses some of it.
It
I mean,
encompasses some of
I think
it.
option B, although it solves the problem mathematically, causes other problems with 2 additional stories.
No, we are going after what staff recommended.
Okay.
so.
So,
Okay.
you need a motion?
Wait a minute.
I
wait a
do.
minute.
Where's 4?
4 is just in my staff comments.
Four is in the
Comments?
So I would make a motion to, what's the motion? To recommend the changes to the GIP and parking options as
Oh, right here.
as in staff comments?
As proposed by the
As-
staff.
as outlined by
It's
staff
Option
comments.
number 4, so.
And then also with the conditions as outlined.
With the conditions as outlined by staff.
Okay, all right. Now let the discussion begin. Kathy?
I would really like to see Friday, Saturday of LA service for this, because if you're gonna rely on parking spots off-site, I think that's the best way to get people, and that would solve your problem too, Cindy.
It would. It would.
Okay.
So when you think about a Friday, Saturday valet service, would that be a condition of approval that Terrence's
I don't think
firm
we
would
want
pay
to
for
make
it,
that
or?
a condition of approval, no.
Well, you want, how many restaurants now?
305 seats or something.
305 seats.
Well, ultimately, if the restaurants find that people can't park and they don't come, they'll figure it out. They'll provide.
So if we make that part of the, like the clawback is, instead of
Yeah.
an evaluation of an issue, it could
Right,
be,
okay.
okay, you have to do this.
When I'm reading, you say could be addressed through a combination of 10 or so reduced cost bus passes, public parking spaces, and possibly off-site lease spaces. That lacks enough definition to make me happy, because we've talked about a lot of things with these projects, and we've had a lot of differences of opinion and differences of interpretation. And that leads to more discussions, and this isn't specific enough for me.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to, okay, so do you want to approve with the condition that the staff will come up with more specific numbers?
I
or-
think that's a very good point that Kathy made about the weekend bus service. I was
Yes, I
thinking
do
that
too.
Saturday night had been included, which, I think the biggest issue is gonna be Friday night, frankly, but.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, I think what Cindy's saying is the idea of evaluate and then we have some clawback teeth.
Right.
You want to see the specifics on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
to
what-
me, there's still a lot of room for interpretation in what you're saying, and I'm trying to forestall future arguments.
Right. So would the
And this
amendment be that after the evaluation, any clawback provisions have to be subject to approval by this body?
Yes.
Or do you have a different recommendation procedurally to solve this?
That's what I'm trying to get at is.
Do you want them spelled out now as part of like?
Well, I really like the idea of evaluation as we go, and I'm not sure that we have enough of a future vision right now to be able to tell exactly, but I want the world to know that it has to come
Be
back
clear
to us,
about it,
and we
yeah.
have to be happy with
And we have
what
the
it is.
teeth to
Yeah, and
make
then
And then
it
we
happen.
have the teeth so
authority.
that all the risk of
Yeah.
underparking falls on him, not on us.
Exactly, that's the exact.
Okay,
So
so-
we could come up with some language that could be added to the GIP and then in the parking management that outlines that.
And add it to the developers agreement
Yes,
under
that's-
TIF.
Okay, so is that the motion then?
Cindy,
With all the-
would you trust staff to come up with that?
I would trust staff to come up with the language, but I
Still want to approve it?
yeah, I don't want to continue to be in the position where there's different interpretations and there's argument going. I mean, think of about a few weeks ago when we were listening to somebody else talk about what was wrong with Walker's study and all that. I want to be done with all that. I want it to be pretty as black and white as we possibly can.
And I think we're really close to making it black and white, so we could, if you prefer, we could bring that language back on the 11th, because this can't go to the council till the 18th anyway. It's not gonna cost them any time, in terms of getting started.
Approval, but have the language come back.
Or,
Okay.
or say, that you're basically, that they're saying.
Okay.
right
So
now.
I'll friendly amend my motion to reflect those comments, which I know will be accurately recorded in the minutes.
Yes.
Eileen made them.
Yes.
And that's fine with me. That
Okay.
that means, I mean, I'm not trying to hold the project out. I'm just trying to forestall future arguments.
Okay, so it will come back on 11th with all the specifications. Okay.
And one
Yes,
more, if I
David.
can. And the last paragraph on the next document that we're going to look at, the phase 2, but the last paragraph that says the city should well, would just make it, the city require a review and evaluation, blah, 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 after 1 year. That ought to be in as
The
part
city
of that.
requires.
Yeah, it's already there, yeah.
The city
Okay.
requires.
Yeah, put it in the GIP parking management plan and the developers agreement.
Is everybody happy now? Ready to vote? Okay, if there's no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the GIP plan for Middleton Center is passed. The next one is proposed specific implementation plan modification Middleton Center Phase 2.
And again, I just put
7609 and 7611 Elmwood Avenue.
I just put the conditions, together with GIP and SIP because they're so closely linked. That GIP's talking about the overall, specific one that's 20,000 square feet of office being converted to 14
Apartments.
So,
Okay, so
you need a motion then?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I would make a motion that we recommend the SAP changes and parking options subject to the conditions outlined by staff.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? David? Well, you seem to be asking question, well, maybe Kathy, you have
That's all right.
something.
On page 2, I think it is, I would just like, page 2, item 7.
Page of,
Oh,
that.
sorry, of the conditions.
Of the conditions memo.
Yes.
Beg your pardon. It says a landscape plan must be submitted and approved by the city. I would like to insert a landscape plan that reflects the changes in building use must be approved. In other words, we've now got a restaurant on the ground, how does the landscape change? Because they're going to want to put chairs out and all those kind of
That's a
things.
good point. We don't have those details yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Any other, Kathy, you had anything?
Well, I just want to, it's just a comment, it's like, if you would have come to the council asking for 14 apartments, you probably would not have gotten that, but you came and said with the lease that you had this tenant that wanted to lease it, and I just think maybe it should go back the way it was.
You mean to the office? To the office.
But I can understand why I can understand it.
He can't lease it. I mean, he tried to lease it. That's why he's doing this.
Right, but it was an expansion because he had a lease. A lease ready to go.
Yes.
He had a letter of intent.
And that
Letter
is
of
what.
intent, and that's why it was approved. Not because he wanted 14 more apartments.
Okay, Kurt, you had any?
Well, I mean, the ultimate decision will come to council.
It will come through, yeah. It will on the 18th.
I'll say that too.
So do you feel comfortable with this or you do not?
What's going to council?
Oh, okay.
She'll have the final say then, right?
That's right.
Yes, yes.
I mean, but what I hear her saying is that additional modifications for phase 3, if they keep coming up, are going to be scrutinize more heavily. That
Yes, would not make Kathy very happy, so.
No, and that's
unlikely to.
Okay.
Yes, it's time to, stick to what's proposed and get on with this, so. Your point is well taken, Kathy, so. Any other comments, anyone else? Okay, if there are no more questions, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of this motion, as stated by Aline, and with modification, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the SAP is passed. So next one is number 10, request for tax incremental finance district number 3 increased assistance Middleton Center phase 2. Eileen.
Well, the staff recommendation is approval. I don't know if anyone will remember, but when they first came in a couple of years ago, they had outlined actually $12 million in eligible costs, but the project wouldn't support that. And now they've outlined some additional value. They're asking to realize that value. It's like $655,000. Again, this is developer finance, so if they don't create it, they won't get paid back for what they're borrowing. But today, about 12:30, they submitted a request, which we haven't had a chance to review, which is to shift more some of the funds that are available instead of paying for the interest rate, because they're getting a better interest rate, to allow it to be used for some of the eligible costs from $655 to about $800. I can't really make that recommendation right now because we were swamped this afternoon and didn't have a chance to review it with our staff team. But we're not saying we're against that. We're just saying we support additional TIF and what we've outlined so far is the $655,000. It can go to the council with additional amounts. I just wanted to mention it because they submitted it this afternoon. So it's just kind of shifting here.
We were able to secure a better interest rate.
Okay, but this, what we be talking about is $650,000. So that's what we will be talking about.
And then the last council.
And then, we can see what happens in the council if, all the supporting documents and information is provided. Okay, anything else that you want to add? So I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
$650,000. So let's specify that we are approving. What's the
all we
exact
have.
number?
For the
655.
additional developer
Yeah.
finance diff
Yeah.
to
Yes.
655.
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on this motion? Any discussion on this motion? If there's no more discussion, I call the question. All those in favor? Kurt, you have a
No,
question?
I was just going to say, since Terrence wrote so eloquently in the Middleton Times Tribune about excessive city costs being presented to renters, that drives up your cost of rent. I wonder if he's going to consider also documenting to his renters the amount of city subsidy in TIF.
I think that's it. I think, Kurt,
As long as we're fully accounting for all costs and benefits.
this is well said, and I agree with Kurt. So, okay, any other comments, guys, either for the article or about what we're talking about here? Okay, all those in favor of this motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next one is,
We'll wait for that one.
the last one is to set a public hearing. This is a request for conditional use permit for the Madison Power Equipment 211 Eagle Drive. It's just setting a public hearing, that's all we're
I'll
doing.
make a motion to schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, July 11th, 2017 at 7:05.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. I need a motion to adjourn. Okay, second. So we're adjourned. Thank you. Great job, guys.